SurrealDB is a multimodal database. We use Homebrew to install SurrealDB on our computer. So first, let's go to Homebrew website. Address is brew.sh. Then you need to copy this code and run this code on terminal. It will install Homebrew on your computer. After you install Homebrew, let's run brew install surrealdb/tap/surreal. Press enter. This will install SurrealDB on your computer. After you install SurrealDB, then let's run surreal version to check whether or not install succeeded. It will show you version number. It means we successfully installed SurrealDB. In terminal, let's run surreal start --user root --password root. Press enter. This will start the SurrealDB database server as a user root and the password is also root. We will interact with SurrealDB in Rust. So in Rust cargo project, in cargo.toml file, we will add dependencies Tokyo for asynchronous runtime, 30 for serialized and deserialized attributes, and SurrealDB. Then let's go to main.rs file. First, let's add attribute Tokyo main for the main function. So we can turn this main function as an async function. Then let's create a connection to the SurrealDB database. Let's create a variable, give the name db, equal to, we'll call SurrealDB surreal new function. Then we'll pass the address of the database server will be 127.0.0.1. Port is 8000. Then let's call awaiter to handle the future and the unwrapper to handle the result. In this new function, we need to use TurboFish to add the type annotation. Will be ws import from SurrealDB engine remote ws. Then let's sign in the root user. We will call db.signin method. Then will be root. In this root, we will specify the first is username, will be root, and the second is password, also root. Then let's call awaiter to handle the future and unwrapper to handle the result. Then let's specify the namespace and the database. So we will call db.use namespace. Let's give it a namespace test. Then use database. Also give it a name test. Let's call awaiter to handle the future and unwrapper to handle the result. Let's try to insert the data into the SurrealDB database. First, let's create a struct type. For insert the data, let's give it a name person. Let's add a field name type, give it a string. Let's add another field age. Let's give it a type of ICR2. Then let's add an attribute derive. We add a debugger so later we can print out the instance of this person. Then we need to add a serialize so we can serialize this person struct type to JSON. Let's define another struct type. Give it a name record. We use this struct to store the record ID. So it will have a field is ID. Type will be record ID. Import from SurrealDB. We need to add attribute derive deserialize. So we can deserialize JSON data to this record type. Then we need to also add a colon. Then let's call db.create method. Then we'll pass a value user, so it will create a table user in the database. Then let's call content to insert the data to this user table. So we will call this person struct. Name field, we'll give it a Jim the toString. Age field will give it a value 20. Then let's call await to handle the future and unwrapper to handle the result. It will return record ID. So let's create a variable. Let's give it a name record1. Then we need to add a type annotation for this variable. So it will store the record ID in option. So type will give it a option record type we defined here. Let's insert another data into the database. Let's change this variable name to record2. Also, we will insert to user table. Let's change name to PIM. Age, let's change to 25. Let's print out the record ID in its record. So print line record1 ID record1 that we call as ref to create a reference to this. Then let's call unwrapper to handle the option. Then we can call ID field to get the ID. Here let's change this record2. Here record2. Then let's select all the data we insert into the user table. We need to create a struct type to select the data from database. Let's give it a name user. We will add a field ID. Type will be record ID. Then its name type is string. Age type is ISR2. Let's add attribute derive, debug, serialize, and deserialize. Here we will call db.select method. Then we will select all the data from user table. Then let's call await to handle the future and unwrapper to handle the result. Let's create a variable persons equal to this. Then we need to give it a type annotation. It will be a vector. Hold each user in option. So option. Then in this option, we will give a type user. We create a type here. Here should be have a colon. Then let's loop through its vector persons. So for person in persons. Let's print out each person. Let's select a specific person by ID. So we call db select method. We'll pass a tuple in its select method as argument. First element in its tuple will be the table name, is user. Second element in its tuple is record ID. Let's select the first person. Let's get the first person's record ID from its record1. So record1 as ref unwrapper ID key toString to convert it to string. Then let's call await to handle the future and unwrapper to handle the result. Let's create a variable to store this person 1. Then we will give it a type annotation. It will return that person in option. So we give it a type annotation option. Hold a user. Let's print out this person 1. Print line person 1. Person 1. Let's delete a person by its ID. Let's create a variable, give it a name person deleted equal to db.delete method. Then we'll pass a tuple as argument. In this tuple, first element is a user table. Second element is record ID. So let's delete first person record1 as ref unwrapper.id key toString. Then let's call await to handle the future and unwrapper to handle the result. It will return that deleted person to its variable. So let's give it a type annotation. That deleted person will in option. so we'll put a user type in its option. Let's print out this deleted person. Person deleted. Let's update a person from database. So let's update a person 2. Let's create a variable, give the name person updated equal to, we'll call db the update method. Then we'll pass a tuple as argument. First element in this tuple is a user table. Second element in this tuple is a record ID. So the second person record ID is record 2 as ref the unwrapper the ID the key the toString. Then we will call content method to update the content. We will call this user struct type, and the name field, let's give it a new name Andy, toString. Age field, let's give it a age 30. Then ID field, we will give it a record ID. So record ID from record to the as ref the unwrapper the ID. Then we'll call clone method to clone this ID. After this content method, we'll call await to handle the filter and unwrapper to handle the result. Then it will return that updated person to its variable. So let's give it a type annotation. That person will in option. So we'll put the user type in option. Then let's print out this updated person. Print the line updated person updated. Last, let's select all the person from database again. So let's copy this code. Select all the person from user table and then print out each person. Let's pass it here. In terminal, let's cargo run. So first, after we insert 2 person into the database, it will print out 2 record IDs. And the first one is like this, and the second one is this. Then we select all the users from database. We insert 2 users. So first user is Jim, age 20, and the second user is Pim, age 25. Then we select the person by ID. It's the first person, so the first person name is Jim, age 20. Then we delete that person, Jim. Then we update the second person. We change its name to Andy, age to 30. Last, we select all the person again. There is only 1 person in the database, so its name is Andy and the age is 30. This is how we use SurrealDB, insert data, select data, update data, delete data. In Rust, hope see you next time.